Welcome back, well-disposed viewers. I'm Dustor, and this is the third episode of my tutorial series that covers basic tactical map gameplay. I actually am now re-recording this since I had the whole tutorial series finished, and then the patch 1.0.4 came out and introduced some major changes in tactical gameplay, including lines of sight and combat. And since the second part of the tactical mission I'm about to play is the combat tutorial, I've made the decision to replay from here on to include the newest patch because, what's the tutorial worth if it doesn't include the newest major gameplay changes? So, we're gonna play the first tactical mission, Unsanctioned Raid White Fish. Just so you're in the story, we are with the CIA and arrived in Pakistan to check on their alleged nuclear program. We've entered the mission area in disguise, but it isn't foolproof. Keep clear of high-ranking Pakistani troops. For full disclosure, now that I've played the mission before, there are no high-ranking Pakistani officers on this map as of now. Like I said, since the game is constantly patched and improved, that might change. But at first I thought this is like classical gameplay mechanic that is behind those words, like in the early Commando series or something, where high-ranking enemy officers will always see through your cover. I'm just saying that because I'm gonna move on the map rather quickly and not as cautious as you might want to do it when you read something like this. So do not engage unless they fire first, confirm the existence of the phishing device, then evacuate before they know we were even there. So, I'm gonna be silent during cutscenes and flavor text, so let's get started.
You really think this Pakistani nuclear program is legit?
Leslie's usually right about these things.
Really? Shit. I bet him $10 it wasn't.
You're a hopeless dreamer, Bolt.
Found a nice landing spot. I'll wait here until you call for evac.
Good. Keep the comms to a minimum. Our disguise is pretty thin as it is.
What if Leslie calls?
I don't think he'll be joining us on this one. He's on the move.
Okay, welcome to the tactical map. Word on the graphics. I think it is pretty nice, so okay to nice. It's not the most polished graphic in the genre, but it works out pretty good. It gives you an authentic feeling, like especially in the tutorial, so the second episode with Eastern Germany, the old technology and stuff. It works for me, and sometimes effects like the sandstorm I actually really like. So I think the graphic, even though you see it's not AAA production value, works pretty good, and is certainly not the most important criteria for tactical turn-based strategy anyways. So on the map we have, like you know from the last episode, enemies that are soldiers and guards, also civilians. that are not neutral. So civilian actions are calculated during the enemy's turn, so there's not a like neutral calculating phase. And when civilians see you doing something fishy or something suspicious, they will raise the alarm, so they're basically all in line with the enemy. They will just not engage in combat. So, we're at the Pakistani Air Force Base since our handler Leslie had a hunch on something going on here concerning an unrevealed Pakistani nuclear program, and we will uncover that in a second. So there are two major like secondary mission objectives. They're not called that since secondary mission objectives are oftentimes story bound, but there is recoverable loot on each map that is stashed in lockers or vaults or I don't know, any kind of containers around the map. They are these blinking lockers on this map, and they contain weapons and weapons modifications that we can equip or that we can use for equipping our soldiers. I'm gonna jump ahead on one point. You cannot, on the strategy map layer, which I will cover in episode 5 and 6, you cannot buy unlimited guns for your agents. So at the beginning of the game, you can just buy 2 or 3 standard guns for your agents, which is why you will or you want to recover as much loot as you can possibly grab on the map, since this is the only way in the early game to get more weapons and to improve your soldiers. Like I will cover in episode 5, the facility map tutorial, each soldier has certain weapon proficiencies. So there is a certain familiarity that he has with certain guns, and he is better using them. They basically cost less resources to fire. I will cover that in episode 4, but it is beneficial to give a soldier a weapon that he has a weapon proficiency for, because it yields certain bonuses, and like I said, you cannot just buy them on the black market. So in the early game you have to collect it. That's why these loot caches are pretty important. And the second thing that is recoverable on the tactical map that is also of big importance to the gameplay are secret documents, because they yield a variety of different bonuses, from blueprints for crafting over weapons contracts that you can then use to actually buy a certain kind of weapon on the black market, to revealing agent contacts. So like you will see in episode 5, you cannot just hire agents off the bat. You first have to discover agent aliases or contacts so you can get in contact with them. And of course the big resource intel, that is there is an analytics department that you can use to piece different intel pieces you find in the game together. That is what will actually propel the story forward, and will also give you certain further bonuses we'll see that in episode 5. But just so you know, the game does not really tell you this. You should, of course, always try to recover everything, every loot and every classified docs, or as much as possible, because the bonuses it yields are huge, especially in the early game. So, before I start blabbering too much about this, I will start with the tactical gameplay. Notice that the line of sight cones of the Pakistani guards are not red, but in a yellow, in a somehow more distinct white than other spaces. That is because we are in disguise. As you can see up here, this little symbol tells that we are indeed in disguise, so we can move around freely in restricted areas without raising suspicion. And but if we do something, like I said, that is wacky, fishy, these will still raise the alarm and blow our cover for the group, so for all our field agents, and not just the one that is actually acting weird. And as you can see, if I try to open this loot cache while the Pakistani guard is watching, then we have this little blinking symbol right here that indicates that it will that the alarm will be raised. So we cannot open the loot cache right now. I think it would be nice if these cones of sight would maybe get a yellowish or orangey touch, because there are certain situations, especially in buildings like here, it's sometimes really hard to see where the area of view is, so maybe that will get a fix someday. So, but as you can see, if you hover over an enemy, you see his walking pattern for the next turn. This is not just a prediction. He actually will use these exact steps, except you block him, but then he will always find a way around to get to the spot. So we can just stand in front of the locker and wait a turn for him to move away, and since this guard over here does not move and his line of sight is just 6 tiles long, he won't see us using the locker.
Yeah?
So, like I said, my first playthrough on this map was very tactical, inching around corners, because I always thought there would be a Pakistani officer to blow my cover. But since this is the first tutorial mission, nothing did happen. I did not find one, and I'm pretty sure there is no such officer on the map. So I try to speed up the tutorial by not being too tactical here. So now we can recover our first secret document, and since we're in the Cold War, we of course use a mini camera to photograph those secrets.
Yeah.
And as you see now, the enemy guard is not looking, so we can now open the loot locker, and we get a bulletproof vest and 2 pistol suppressors. So we have found weapon modding parts, which is also, so didn't know if I mentioned that, but it's not just weapons, but also weapons modification that will also be covered in the episode 5 tutorial facilities. So, I will demonstrate something, and well, it's a tactical option, if you will, but from my standpoint, this is an issue that needs fixing, because it actually is immersion breaking. As you can see, our agent can jump through a window and waltz right through to guards without breaking his disguise. And I think, like, since we're undercover and sneaky and spying operatives and try to avoid raising suspicion, and it does not suspicion if, like, I don't know, we're dressed as scientists or hazard workers or whatever, just uses a window instead of a door. So even if the guard is standing right next to it, nothing will happen. And I think there should be, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 tile sound that will alert guards at least standing in a certain area around it. Because, like I said, I think it is pretty immersion breaking that this does not have any consequences at all. At first I even thought about like a guard seeing a broken window raising an alarm, but I can see how that is a bit much, because you're 10 turns later you're somewhere on the map and somebody's walking around here that you didn't predict or something, and then the alarm is raised. So I can see why that is not a good option, because the consequence of your action will just kick in way after your actual action. But like I said, it would be nice if there was a penalty on breaking a window in direct vicinity of a guard. So we looted the other cache, and as you see, multiple loot items can be stashed in one cache, so we're already 5 out of 5 loot. And now we're entering a second part of the map with 2 civilians in a workshop laboratory kind facility, and we have a power console which is connected to generators which are connected to the building over here. And as you can see, here are laser barriers that actually prevent us from reaching the sealed off area, and as you already suspect, shutting off this power console will disable the laser beam. So these blinking objects, like you know from the second episode from the tutorial where we shut down the security cameras, can also be found in different kind of functions.
Yeah.
So let's get up there real quick. Since nobody is looking, we can steal the second secret document file and prepare our next step. Since the guy over here will not go away, but stand before the console, and we need to flip the switch, we will need to incapacitate him. And since this civilian is patrolling up and down over here, we will have to incapacitate her as well, since otherwise she will, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles. So as soon as she turns over here, she would see the incapacitated colleague. So now we will incapacitate her, which costs 50 awareness. I will cover awareness in the next episode because it's related to the combat system, and I will cover it in that episode to keep this as short as possible. So we incapacitated both of them, and like I said, I've played this before. Nobody's waltzing in there, so we're pretty safe.
What's cooking?
But if we were in doubt, if somebody patrols through here, or we do know somebody is patrolling through here, there is an ability called Dispose of Body, which allows you to use your fire point to make bodies disappear. This option, however, is not available for players playing on hard, but as you know, we play normal Ironman. So since there is no other requirement for this to be carried out, like a container where you can stash the person in or something, you can just use your fire point to make them disappear permanently, which of course does make things a lot easier for you, because it
Laser barriers. There's definitely something valuable in here.
Get rid of them before you stroll through one.
because it does make the game a lot easier, so chances of blowing your cover are reduced by a ton. So now
I read you.
we'll get over there and
I'm here.
this tutorial is drawing to a close. Since we still don't know what's waiting over here, but that will, spoiler alert, lead pretty soon to combat action. So I'll cover that in the episode 4 tutorial,
What's cooking?
combat abilities and thoughts on AI. I think we're good here. If you've seen the second episode and the third, you should be comfortable on the tactical map with moving around and finding and recovering loot. So I hope possible questions you might have had are answered by now. I will cover more stuff in the further tutorials, so if you liked it, I'll see you back then.